Hey there, welcome back. I'm here to help you unwind and relax tonight. I know many of you listen to these stories as you drift off to sleep. Before you get comfortable, feel free to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always enjoy hearing from you. Now, settle in. Story 1. At exactly 3:17 a.m., every clock in Daniel Raz's house stopped. Not slowed, not glitched. Stopped. Dead still. Daniel didn't notice it right away, because at 3:17 a.m., he was asleep. And that's what saved him. The first thing that woke him wasn't a sound. It was the absence of one. Silence. Not normal silence. Not the kind you hear late at night when the world settles. This was different. Heavy. Pressing. Like something had swallowed every noise in the house. No hum of the fan. No ticking of the wall clock. No distant barking dogs. Nothing. Daniel's eyes opened slowly. The darkness felt wrong. Too still. Too complete. He turned his head toward the bedside table. His digital clock. Blank. Power's out, he muttered. But something about it didn't feel right. Even during outages, there was always something. A faint buzz. A flicker. A distant sound from outside. Hey! There was nothing. Daniel sat up slowly. His heart hadn't started racing yet. Not fear. Not yet. Just confusion. He reached for his phone. The screen lit up. 3:17 a.m. He frowned. Okay, that's weird. He waited. A second. 2. The time didn't change. His thumb tapped the screen. Still 3:17. Glitch, he whispered. He stood up. The floor felt colder than usual. That's when he noticed something else. The air. It wasn't moving. Not even slightly. Daniel walked toward his bedroom door. Each step sounded too loud in the silence. Too sharp. Like the house was empty. But listening. He opened the door. The hallway stretched out in front of him. Dark. Still. At the far end. The wall clock hung above the staircase. Daniel squinted. The hands. Pointed straight at 3:17. He swallowed. Coincidence, he muttered. But his voice sounded wrong. Muted. Like the house didn't want to carry it. He stepped into the hallway. And that's when he heard it. A sound. Soft. Tick. Daniel froze. The clock moved. Just once. From 3:17 to 3:18. The silence snapped. Everything came rushing back at once. The faint hum of electricity. Distant traffic. The whisper of air through the vents. Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Okay, he said shakily. Just a power glitch. He turned back toward his room. And stopped. Because behind him. The clock ticked again. Tick. He turned slowly. The hands hadn't moved. Still 3:18. Another tick. Tick. Still 3:18. Daniel's chest tightened. That's not. Another tick. Tick. The sound wasn't coming from the clock. It was coming from downstairs. Daniel stared at the staircase. Darkness pooled at the bottom. Thick. Unnatural. And then, another sound. A voice. Faint. Distorted. Help me. Daniel's blood ran cold. He took a step back. Nope, he whispered. But the voice came again. Louder this time. Daniel. His heart stopped. That voice. He knew it. Impossible. Because it belonged to someone who wasn't supposed to be here. Someone who hadn't been in this house for years. Someone who. Daniel, please. The voice broke into a soft sob. Don't leave me down here. Daniel's legs felt weak. No, he whispered. It's not real. But the voice knew things. It said his name the way only one person ever had. Soft. Familiar. And full of fear. He stepped toward the stairs. One step. Then another. His mind screamed at him to stop. To run. To lock himself in his room. But something else pulled him forward. Something stronger. Memory. The basement door creaked open. Cold air rushed up. And with it, the ticking grew louder. Tick. 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 But it wasn't steady. It was uneven. Wrong. Like something was trying to imitate time. And failing. Daniel gripped the railing tightly. Who's there? He called out. Silence. Then, a whisper. You already know. The lights flickered, and for a split second, Daniel saw something at the bottom of the stairs. A figure, standing completely still, head tilted, watching him. Then, darkness again. The ticking stopped, completely, and the voice came one last time, right behind him. "Why did you leave me here?" Daniel spun around, but no one was there. When he looked back down the stairs, the basement door was closed, locked, and the wall clock behind him had stopped again, at exactly 3:17 a.m. Daniel didn't move, not immediately. He stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the basement door. Closed, locked, silent. His breathing came in shallow bursts. "That didn't happen," he whispered. But the words felt weak, empty, because it had happened. He had heard it, the voice, calling his name, sounding exactly like. "No," he said firmly, shaking his head. He wasn't going there. Not yet. Instead, he turned back toward his room. Each step felt heavy, like something behind him didn't want him to leave. He shut the door, locked it, then leaned against it, trying to steady his breathing. "Think," he muttered. "Think logically. Power outage. Clock glitch. Half asleep hallucination." That made sense. It had to make sense. He picked up his phone again. 3:17 a.m. Still. His stomach dropped. No, no, no. He opened another app. Weather. Messages. Settings. Everything worked. Everything updated. Except the time. Always. 3:17. Daniel slowly looked up. The room felt different now. Not wrong, but watched. A soft sound came from his desk. He turned. His laptop screen flickered on. He hadn't touched it. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, that's new." The screen glowed dimly in the dark room. A single file was open. Untitled. The cursor blinked slowly. Then, letters began to appear. One by one. D. A. N. I. E. L. His breath caught in his throat. "No," he whispered. The typing continued. WHY. Daniel stepped back. "Stop," he said. The cursor paused, then resumed. DID. YOU. LEAVE. The words formed slowly, deliberately. ME. The screen went black. Daniel didn't scream. He couldn't, because something deep inside him already knew the truth. Knew whose voice it was, and knew why it was asking. He hadn't just heard a random voice. He had heard her. A memory pushed its way into his mind. A locked door. A younger version of himself. Panicking. Someone crying on the other side. "Daniel, please, open it." His hands trembled. "No," he whispered. "I didn't." But the memory sharpened. The basement. Years ago. Before the house felt wrong. Before the silence. Before the clocks. There had been an accident. At least. That's what everyone called it. Daniel stumbled toward his closet. He dropped to his knees and pulled out an old box. Dust covered the lid. He hadn't opened it in years. Didn't want to. But now, he had to. His fingers shook as he lifted the lid. Inside, old photos, school papers, random things from a past he tried not to think about. And at the bottom, a photograph. Daniel froze. It showed two children. Him and a girl. Smiling. Standing in front of the house. The same house. The same basement. His throat tightened. "Zara," he whispered. His younger sister. The memories came rushing back now. Faster. Stronger. A stormy night. Power flickering. Parents out. Zara scared of the dark. She had followed him downstairs, begging him not to leave her alone. "Daniel, wait, don't go up." But he had been angry. Annoyed. He just wanted to be alone. So his hands clenched tightly. "I didn't," he whispered. But the memory didn't stop. He had shut the door. Locked it. "I'll be right back," he had said. But he never came back. The power had gone out. The house went silent. And Zara. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. "No." He dropped the photo. "I came back," he said desperately. "I did." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure anymore. The memory felt broken. Incomplete. Like something had been removed. A sudden noise snapped him back. From downstairs. A loud thud. Daniel froze. Another sound. Scraping. Like something dragging across the floor. The basement door. His heart pounded violently. "She's not," he whispered. "She can't be." Another thud. Louder this time. Followed by a whisper. Right below him. "Daniel." His breath hitched. "I didn't leave you," he called out weakly. Silence. Then, a slow creak. The basement door, unlocking. Daniel stared at it from the hallway. The handle turned slightly. Stopped. Then, turned again. A cold realization settled over him. Whatever was down there, it wasn't waiting anymore. It was coming up. The door opened. Just a crack. Darkness spilled out. And from inside, a hand emerged. Small. Pale. Child-sized. Daniel's legs refused to move. Because deep down, he already knew. This wasn't just something in the basement. This was something he had left there. And now, it had waited long enough. The hand didn't move. It just stayed there, resting against the edge of the basement door. Still, waiting. Daniel's breath came in shallow, uneven bursts. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to leave the house, to never look back. But he didn't move. Because that hand, it wasn't just something unknown. It was familiar. Too familiar. "Zara," he whispered. The fingers twitched. Just slightly. And then, slowly, the hand pulled back into the darkness. The door creaked open wider. An invitation. Or a warning. Daniel swallowed hard. "This isn't real," he whispered. But his feet moved anyway. One step forward, then another. The hallway seemed longer now. The air colder. Each step toward the basement felt heavier, like walking into something that didn't want him there, or something that had been waiting. He reached the door. It was fully open now. Darkness filled the stairwell. Thick. Unnatural. The light switch was right there on the wall. Daniel reached for it. His fingers hovered over the switch, then stopped, because something deep inside him knew. Light wouldn't fix this. Still, he flipped it. The bulb flickered, buzzed, then turned on. Dim. Weak. But enough. The basement stairs stretched downward. Narrow. Steep. The walls looked older than he remembered. Dirtier. Like the space had been untouched for years. But that wasn't possible. He lived here. He would have noticed. Wouldn't he? Daniel placed his foot on the first step. It creaked loudly. Too loudly. The sound echoed in the basement. But didn't come back. Like it was absorbed. Second step. Third. Each one heavier than the last. The ticking sound returned. Tick. Oh, tick. But it wasn't steady. It came from everywhere. Walls. Floor. Air. Daniel reached the bottom of the stairs. The basement opened up around him. Larger than it should have been. Too large. The light flickered again. And for a moment, the room changed. Just for a second. It wasn't empty. It was furnished. Old furniture. A small table. A chair. A blanket on the floor. Then, the light steadied. And everything was gone. Daniel's chest tightened. She was down here, he whispered. The realization hit him slowly. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Zara hadn't just been locked in the basement. She had been left here. Another sound. Behind him. Daniel spun around. The stairs. Still there. But the door at the top. Gone. Just darkness. No, he whispered. He took a step back. Then another. But the stairs didn't feel right anymore. Longer. Further away. You came back. The voice. Soft. Right behind him. Daniel froze. Slowly, he turned around. And this time, she was there, standing in the center of the basement. Zara. Exactly as he remembered. Small. Thin. Wearing the same clothes from that night. But something was wrong. Her face. It wasn't scared. It wasn't crying. It was calm. Too calm. You came back, she repeated. Daniel's throat tightened. I didn't leave you, he said weakly. A pause. Then, she smiled. And it wasn't a child's smile. It was something else. Something that knew more than it should. You always say that, she said softly. Daniel's heart skipped. What do you mean? Zara tilted her head slightly. You come down here. A step forward. You say you didn't leave me. Another step. And then you forget again. Daniel's mind reeled. What? You forget every time, she continued. Her voice calm. Too calm. You go back upstairs. You sleep. And when it's 3:17 again, you come back. Daniel staggered backward. No, that's not possible. Zara stopped. Just a few feet away now. Do you remember leaving me here? She asked. Daniel opened his mouth. Then closed it. Because the memory. It wasn't clear. It wasn't complete. He shook his head. I came back. Zara's smile faded slightly. No, she said quietly. You didn't. The basement shifted. The walls flickered. And suddenly, Daniel wasn't standing there anymore. He was watching. The memory played out around him. The same basement. Years ago. Zara crying. Daniel, don't leave. And him. Turning away. Climbing the stairs. Closing the door. Locking it. And then. Nothing. No return. No rescue. No second chance. The memory shattered. Daniel collapsed to his knees. I didn't know, he whispered. I thought you came upstairs. Zara's voice came softly. You never checked. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Daniel looked up at her. Tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry. Zara stared at him. Not angry. Not sad. Something else. You should be. The ticking grew louder. Faster. Tick. 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 The basement darkened. The walls closing in. You left me here, Zara said. Her voice changing. Layering. Becoming something deeper. Something older. And now? She stepped closer. So do you stay? Daniel's heart pounded violently. What? Zara's face flickered. For a split second. It wasn't her. Something else. Something hollow. You stay with me, she whispered. Or you forget again. The ticking reached a deafening rhythm. The darkness pressed in from all sides. And Daniel realized. This wasn't just a memory. This was a loop. And this time, it was asking him to choose. The ticking wouldn't stop. Tick. Tick. Too fast now. Too loud. Like time itself was panicking. Daniel pressed his hands over his ears. It didn't help. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside his head. You stay with me. Zara's voice echoed around him. Or you forget again. Daniel's chest heaved. I won't forget this time, he said desperately. Zara tilted her head. You always say that. Her voice wasn't mocking. That was worse. It was tired. Like she had heard this 1,000 times before. The basement shifted again. The walls closed in. Then stretched back out. The light flickered violently. And for a moment, Daniel saw something hidden beneath the illusion. The floor. Scratched. Deep marks carved into the concrete. Lines. Words. His breath caught. He stumbled forward, dropping to his knees. His fingers traced the marks. They weren't random. They were written. Over and over. The same sentence. Don't leave again. Daniel's stomach twisted violently. I wrote this, he whispered. Zara didn't respond. She just watched. The realization hit him like a... He had been here before. Not once. Not twice. Many times. Each time. He came down. He remembered. He broke. And then. He chose to forget. No, he whispered. I didn't. Zara stepped closer. Yes, she said softly. You did. The ticking slowed slightly. Tick. Tick. Like the moment was stretching. Waiting. You always choose the same thing, she continued. You always leave. Daniel shook his head violently. No, not this time. His voice cracked. I won't do that again. Zara's expression didn't change. You say that every time. The air grew colder. The darkness pressed closer. And suddenly, Daniel felt it. A pull. From behind him. From the stairs. From somewhere above. He turned slowly. The staircase had returned. Faint. Distant. But visible. And at the top, a door. Slightly open. Light spilling through. Warm. Safe. Daniel's heart pounded. That's the way out, he whispered. Zara didn't look at it. She only looked at him. If you go up there, she said quietly, you won't remember this. His chest tightened. You'll wake up in your bed and think it was a dream. The light from the door flickered slightly, inviting, calling him. Daniel took a step toward it. Just one. And immediately, the ticking grew louder. Faster. Tick 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 tick. See? Zara said softly. You're already leaving. He stopped. His legs trembled. I don't want to forget. Then don't. Her answer was simple. Too simple. Daniel turned back to her. What happens if I stay? For the first time, Zara hesitated. Just slightly. Then, you stay with me. That's it. A pause. Then, her voice changed. Deeper. Layered. No one leaves. The basement shifted violently. The illusion cracked again. And Daniel saw it. Not a room. Not a basement. Something else. Something older. The walls weren't walls. They were surfaces. Dark. Endless. And beneath them, movement. Something breathing. Something waiting. Zara flickered. For a split second. She wasn't a girl. She was something hollow. Something that had worn her shape for too long. Daniel staggered back. What are you? Her head tilted again. And this time, her smile returned. Wider. Wrong. I'm what stayed. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Daniel looked back at the stairs. At the light. At the way out. Then back at Zara. At what she had become. At what had been left behind. His chest tightened painfully. I did this, he whispered. Zara didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth was already there. The ticking slowed again. Tick. Oh, tick. The moment stretching. Waiting. Daniel closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. And made the one choice he had never made before. He stepped away from the stairs. The light flickered violently. The ticking stopped. Completely. Zara froze. For the first time, something in her expression changed. Not calm. Not controlled. Surprise. You're not leaving, she said slowly. Daniel shook his head. No. His voice was steady now. I'm not leaving you again. The basement trembled. The illusion breaking apart. The darkness shifting. Zara stepped back, her form flickering rapidly. You don't understand, she said. I do, Daniel replied quietly. If I leave, I get to forget. He looked around at the space. At the thing beneath it. At what had been waiting all this time. But you don't. Silence. Zara's form twisted slightly. Struggling. Like something inside her was reacting. You can't stay, she said. Her voice breaking. You're not supposed to stay. Daniel nodded. I know. He took a step toward her. And for the first time, she stepped back. The system. Whatever this place was. It wasn't built for this. It wasn't built for someone to choose this. I'm staying, Daniel said firmly. The darkness surged. The thing beneath the basement shifted. Reacting. Awakening. Because something had changed. The loop had broken. And now, something else had to respond. The moment Daniel chose to stay, everything changed. Not slowly. Not subtly. Instantly. The basement reacted. The walls didn't just flicker this time. They collapsed. The illusion of a room tore apart like paper. The stairs behind him. Gone. The door. Gone. The light. Gone. Only darkness remained. But it wasn't empty. Daniel could feel it. Something vast. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting for this exact moment. Zara stumbled backward. Her form glitching violently now. You weren't supposed to do that, she whispered. Her voice no longer steady. Fear. Real fear. Daniel stood his ground. I wasn't supposed to leave you either. The darkness pulsed. A low, deep sound vibrated through the space. Not a voice. Something deeper. Something that didn't need words. Then, it spoke anyway. Not through sound. Through thought. Through presence. The loop is broken. Daniel's breath caught. The words didn't come from Zara. They came from everything. What is this place? Daniel demanded. Silence. Then, the darkness moved. Not like a shadow, like something beneath the surface shifting. This is where forgotten moments go. The words pressed into his mind. Heavy, unavoidable. Daniel's chest tightened. Forgotten moments. The darkness pulsed again. Images formed around him. Not memories. Pieces. Broken fragments of time. A child crying in a locked room. A man walking away from someone calling his name. A door closing. A choice made. And then erased. Daniel's stomach twisted. These are people. These are moments that were abandoned. The truth hit him slowly. Not places. Not things. Moments. Every time someone made a choice. And chose to forget it. It didn't disappear. It came here. This isn't just about me, Daniel whispered. You are not unique. The words weren't cruel. They were factual. Zara stepped closer to him now, her form stabilizing slightly. They all leave, she said quietly, her voice softer now, less controlled. They always leave. Daniel looked at her. You're not just Zara, are you? She didn't answer immediately. Then, no. Her eyes flickered. For a while, I was. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. For a while? She looked away, until she stopped remembering. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Daniel understood now. Zara. His Zara. She had been here. At first. Waiting. Hoping he would come back. But he never stayed. Not long enough. Not permanently. And over time, something else had taken her place. Something built from what was left behind. Something that wore her voice. Her face. Her memory. What happened to her? Daniel asked quietly. Zara's form flickered again. Then, for a brief moment, she looked like herself. Not calm. Not controlled. Scared. Small. Alone. She waited. The darkness answered. The voice. Deeper now. Until there was nothing left to wait with. Daniel's knees weakened. No. Zara's form snapped back. The hollow version. The thing that remained. She's gone, it said softly. Silence. Daniel clenched his fists. So this place. It feeds on that. The darkness pulsed. It preserves it. Preserves it. Every unfinished choice. Every time someone walked away. Every time someone chose to forget. Every time someone didn't go back. It all ended up here. Daniel looked around. At the fragments. At the broken pieces of moments. At the thing beneath it all. And now, he asked. The answer came instantly. You have chosen to stay. His heart pounded. And that changes what? The darkness shifted. Closer. Surrounding him. You must complete the moment. Daniel froze. What does that mean? Zara stepped forward. Closer than ever before. Her face inches from his. And this time, her voice wasn't hollow. It wasn't layered. It was human. You don't just stay, she whispered. You take the place of what's left. Daniel's blood ran cold. No. The darkness surged violently. The fragments around them twisted. Pulled inward. Toward him. The moment must continue. Daniel staggered back. You're saying I become. Zara smiled faintly. And this time, it wasn't wrong. It was sad. You stay with me, she said. But you don't stay as yourself. The realization hit him completely now. This place didn't trap people. It replaced them. One stayed. The other faded. That's the cost, Daniel whispered. The darkness answered. All moments require resolution. His chest tightened painfully. So either I leave and forget again, or I stay and disappear. Silence. That was the choice. The real one. Not just staying. Becoming part of what he stayed for. Daniel looked at Zara. At what remained of her. At what had been lost. I'm not leaving again, he said quietly. Zara's expression didn't change. But something in her eyes flickered. Then you won't be you anymore, she said. Daniel nodded slowly. I wasn't really me, if I could leave you behind. The darkness surged. Violent now. Reacting. Because the choice had been made. And this time, it wouldn't reset. The change didn't start with pain. That's what made it worse. Daniel expected it to hurt. To burn. To tear him apart. But it didn't. It felt quiet. Like something gently slipping out of place. Like a memory fading. but slower, more deliberate. He looked down at his hands. They were still there, still his, but something about them felt distant, like they didn't fully belong to him anymore. Zara watched him carefully. Not the hollow version. Not entirely. There was something else now. Something returning. You feel it? She asked softly. Daniel nodded. Yeah. His voice sounded normal, but it didn't feel like it came from him. The darkness pulsed around them. Closer now. More aware. Transition initiated. The voice echoed through everything. Not loud, but absolute. Daniel swallowed. What happens first? Zara hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. You start forgetting, she said quietly. His chest tightened. Forgetting what? She looked at him, not as the thing she had become, but as someone who remembered what it felt like. Yourself. Silence. Heavy. Daniel shook his head slightly. No, I won't. But even as he said it, something slipped. A small thing. A detail. His school. The name. He knew he had won. But for a second, he couldn't remember it. His breath caught. That's not. Zara stepped closer. It starts small, she said. Daniel clenched his fists. I can fight it. The darkness pulsed again. Stronger this time. Resistance is irrelevant. Daniel's head snapped up. I'm still here, he said. I'm not gone yet. For a moment, the darkness stilled, watching. Then, something changed. Not in the space. In him. A memory surfaced. Sharp. Clear. Zara laughing. Running through the house. Calling his name. Daniel grabbed onto it. Held it tightly. I remember you, he said quickly. I remember everything. Zara's expression softened. Just slightly. Then hold on to it, she whispered. The darkness reacted instantly. Violently. The fragments around them twisted. Pulled tighter. Identity conflict detected. Daniel staggered. The pressure in his head increased. Like something was pushing back, trying to overwrite him. He dropped to one knee. His vision blurred. More memories slipping. Faces without names. Moments without context. No, he whispered. Zara knelt in front of him, her hands hovering just above his. Not touching, like she wasn't sure she still could. You don't have to fight it like this, she said softly. Daniel looked up at her. What do you mean? She hesitated. Then, you're trying to stay you. He frowned. Of course I am. Zara shook her head slowly. That's why it hurts. Silence. Daniel's breathing slowed slightly. What happens if I stop? Zara didn't answer right away. Then, you become what stays. The words settled heavily between them. Daniel swallowed. And what is that? Zara looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, there was fear in her eyes. It's not just one thing. The darkness pulsed again. Stronger now. Closer. Transformation required. Daniel's head snapped back. Pain. Finally. Sharp. Sudden. His mind fractured. Memories colliding. Breaking apart. Reforming into something else. He gasped. What's happening? Zara's voice cut through the chaos. You're becoming the moment itself. Everything stopped. Just for a second. The meaning hit him instantly. Not a person. Not a memory. A moment. The moment. The one he had abandoned. The one he had returned to. The one that never ended. I become this, he whispered. Zara nodded slowly. You become the thing that keeps it alive. The horror of it settled deep. Not trapped. Not dead. Repeating. Endlessly. Daniel staggered back. No, that's worse. The darkness surged violently. Almost eager. Continuity achieved. Zara stood suddenly. No. The word echoed. Sharp. Alive. Something shifted. The darkness recoiled slightly. Daniel looked at her. You said I'd replace you. Zara shook her head. I was wrong. Her voice trembled. You don't replace me. She stepped closer, her form flickering rapidly. You join me. Silence. Daniel's chest tightened. That was the truth. No escape. No replacement. Just more of it. More moments. More fragments. More things that stayed. He closed his eyes. Took a slow breath. And for the first time, he understood the real horror. This place didn't punish people. It preserved what they refused to finish. And now, he was becoming part of it. Daniel could feel himself slipping. Not falling, not fading, becoming. That was the worst part. His thoughts were still there. Clear, sharp. But they no longer felt separate. They stretched, blended with the space around him, with the darkness, with the moment. I can feel it, he whispered. Zara stood in front of him, or what remained of her. You're merging, she said softly. Daniel swallowed. How long did it take you? She didn't answer. That silence said enough. Daniel let out a slow breath. Then there's no time. The darkness pulsed. Closer. More aware now. Integration progressing. Daniel looked up. You want this, don't you? The presence didn't respond. But it didn't need to. He could feel it. This place. It wasn't alive in the way people were. But it wanted something. Completion. Resolution. And Daniel. He was about to give it exactly that. Zara stepped closer. You don't have to rush, she said. Her voice quieter now. Almost pleading. Daniel looked at her. At the flickers of who she had been. And what she had become. If I don't, he said softly, I won't be me long enough to do anything. Silence. Zara's form flickered again. This time. Longer. Her real face stayed. For more than a second. Do what? She asked. Daniel hesitated. Not because he didn't know, but because saying it made it real. Finish it. The darkness reacted instantly. Violently. The space twisted. Fragments surged around them. Invalid action. Daniel clenched his fists. I left you here, he said. The words echoed, stronger than anything else in the space. I locked the door. Zara froze, her form flickering violently. I heard you crying. The darkness surged harder, trying to drown him out. And I didn't come back. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. For the first time. The moment didn't loop. It held. Zara's eyes widened slightly. You've never said that before, she whispered. Daniel nodded. I never let myself. The truth hit harder than anything else. Not the darkness. Not the transformation. Himself. I told myself it was an accident, he continued. That I didn't know. His voice broke. But I did. Zara took a step back, her form glitching rapidly now, the space around them trembling. You're not supposed to do this, she said. The darkness roared. Not in sound. In pressure. In force. Moment disruption detected. Daniel stood his ground. I left you. The words felt heavier now. More real. I heard you. The fragments around them cracked. Lines of light breaking through. And I chose not to come back. Zara's face changed. Not hollow. Not controlled. Broken. Stop, she whispered. But Daniel didn't stop. I was scared, he said. I didn't want to deal with it. The darkness surged violently, trying to pull him apart, to erase the words. But they stayed. I left you alone. Silence. Complete. The ticking stopped. Completely. For the first time since this began. There was no loop. No repetition. No reset. Just truth. Zara stood still, her form stabilizing, a real face returning. Not perfectly, but enough. You never said that, she whispered. Daniel shook his head. I couldn't. A tear rolled down her cheek. Real. Not part of the system. Not part of the loop. Just real. The darkness recoiled, pulling back, like something it couldn't process. Unresolved state collapsing. Daniel took a step forward. I'm here now. Zara looked at him. Really looked. For the first time. Not as something waiting, but as someone seeing. It's too late, she said softly. Daniel nodded. I know. Another step. Closer now. I can't fix what happened. The space trembled. Cracks spreading faster. But I won't pretend it didn't. Zara's form flickered again. But it didn't break this time. It held. The darkness screamed. Not in sound. In resistance. Because something impossible was happening. The moment was ending. Not repeating. Not resetting. Ending. Zara stepped forward, standing in front of him, Close. Real. You stayed, she whispered. Daniel nodded. I did. A pause. Then, thank you. The words hit harder than anything else. The darkness shattered. Fragments collapsing. Breaking apart. The space around them folded inward. Not violently. Gently. Like something finally letting go. Daniel felt it immediately. The pull. Stronger than before. But different. Not dragging him in. Pulling him out. The stairs reappeared. The door. The light. But this time, it wasn't an escape. It wasn't forgetting. It was release. Daniel looked at Zara. At what remained. At what had been saved. Are you coming? He asked softly. She smiled. Small. Real. I don't think I'm supposed to, she said. His chest tightened. But you don't have to stay anymore, she added. Silence. The choice again. But different this time. Daniel looked at the stairs. Then back at her. I'll remember you, he said. Zara nodded. I know. The light grew brighter. The pull stronger. And for the first time, Daniel stepped toward it. Without fear. The light didn't blind him. It swallowed him. Daniel felt himself pulled upward. Not like climbing stairs. Like being unmade from one place. And reassembled in another. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound. No body. No thought. Then, he gasped. Air rushed into his lungs violently. Cold. Real. Daniel collapsed onto the floor of his bedroom. Hardwood beneath him. Solid. He coughed, dragging in breath after breath. I'm back, he whispered. The room looked normal. Bed. Desk. Closet. Everything exactly where it should be. No darkness. No distortion. No basement. He rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. The fan spun slowly. The faint hum of electricity filled the air. Normal. Completely normal. Daniel let out a shaky laugh. I made it. His voice cracked. I actually. Tick. The sound cut through the room. Sharp. Daniel froze. Slowly. Very slowly. He turned his head. The digital clock on his bedside table glowed faintly. 3:18 a.m. It ticked again. Tick. The numbers didn't change. Still 3:18. Daniel sat up. No, he whispered. Another tick. Tick. The sound wasn't coming from the clock. It was coming from somewhere else. Closer. Daniel's chest tightened. He stood slowly. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore it. To pretend everything was fine. But he already knew better. He stepped out into the hallway. The house was quiet. Normal quiet. But underneath it, something else. A faint, uneven ticking. Like before. But not contained. Daniel moved toward the staircase. Each step careful. Measured. The wall clock hung above the stairs. He looked up at it. The hands pointed to 3:17. His breath caught. No. The ticking grew louder. Not from the clock. From below. Daniel stared at the basement door. Closed. Still. For a long moment. He didn't move. Because this time, he understood. The basement wasn't just a place. It was something that continued. And something had followed him out. The handle on the basement door rattled slightly. Once. Then stopped. Daniel swallowed hard. You're not supposed to be here, he said quietly. Silence. Then, a soft sound. From behind him. Not downstairs. Upstairs. Daniel's body went rigid. Slowly. He turned. The hallway behind him stretched into darkness. Longer than it should have been. And at the far end, a figure stood. Still. Watching. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. Zara? The figure didn't move. Didn't respond. But it wasn't her. He knew instantly. Because this thing, it wasn't trying to look like someone he loved. It didn't need to. It stepped forward. Slow. Unnatural. And with each step, the ticking grew louder. Tick. 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 Daniel backed up instinctively. What are you? The figure stopped. Its head tilted slightly. And when it spoke, the voice wasn't Zara's. It wasn't human. It was layered. Broken. Like many voices trying to speak at once. You left. Daniel's blood ran cold. No, he said quickly. I stayed. I finished it. A pause. Then, the figure took another step forward. Closer now. You left, it repeated. Daniel shook his head. I didn't this time. The air in the hallway shifted. The walls flickered. For a split second, he saw it. Not a hallway. A fragment. A piece of that place. You don't understand, the figure said. Its voice clearer now. Stronger. You finished one moment. Daniel froze. What? The figure stepped closer. And now, he could see it clearly. It didn't have a fixed shape. It flickered between forms. Different people. Different faces. All wrong. All incomplete. But there are more. The words hit him like a more. The ticking grew louder. Faster. You think it was just her. The figure's voice deepened. You think you were the only one who left something behind. Daniel's chest tightened. His mind raced. Memories. Small ones. Ignored ones. Moments he never thought about. A friend he stopped talking to. A call he never returned. A promise he broke. And never fixed. No, he whispered. The figure moved closer. Right in front of him now. Too close. They all came here. The truth settled in. Heavy. Crushing. The basement wasn't just about Zara. It was about everything he left unfinished. And now, it wasn't contained anymore. Daniel backed away. What do you want? The figure tilted its head again. Then, it smiled. A broken, unnatural smile. You opened the door. The lights flickered violently. The house shifted. Walls bending slightly. Like reality itself was thinning. And now, the figure leaned closer. Its voice dropping to a whisper. We can follow. The ticking reached a deafening pace. Tick 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 tick. Daniel's vision blurred. The hallway stretched further. The house no longer felt like a house. It felt like the basement. Just a larger. And suddenly, Daniel understood the real horror. He didn't escape. He spread it. The ticking wouldn't stop. It filled the house now. Not hidden. Not distant. Everywhere. Tick. 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 Daniel stumbled back into his room, slamming the door behind him. It didn't help. The sound came through the walls. Through the floor. Through him. This isn't real, he whispered. But he already knew it was. He grabbed his phone. The screen flickered. 3:17 a.m. No. The numbers glitched. 3:18. 3:17. 3:18. Like time itself couldn't decide anymore. Daniel's breathing became uneven. Think, he muttered. Think. The figure's words echoed in his head. You finished one moment. His chest tightened. That meant there were more. A knock came from the door. Soft. Too soft. Daniel froze. Another knock. Knock. Then, a voice. Daniel? He flinched. That voice. It wasn't Zara. It was older. Familiar. His throat went dry. Ame, he whispered. Silence. Then, yeah, the voice answered. Relieved. Normal. It's me, open the door. Daniel didn't move. Ame, his best friend from years ago. The one the memory hit him hard. A fight. A stupid argument. Harsh words. A message left unread. A call ignored. And then, news. An accident. Too late to fix it. Daniel's hand trembled as it moved toward the door. No, he whispered. Not again. The handle rattled slightly. Daniel, please, Ame's voice said. I just need to talk to you. Daniel stepped back. His heart pounded violently. You're not him, he said. You can't be. Silence. Then, the voice changed. Just slightly. Not enough for someone else to notice. But enough for him. You didn't answer me, it said quietly. Daniel's breath hitched. You ignored me. The door creaked. Just a little. Like something on the other side was testing it. You always ignore it, the voice continued. Daniel backed away further. No. The walls flickered. For a split second, he wasn't in his room. He was somewhere else. A street. Rain pouring down. Ame standing across from him. Angry. Hurt. Just answer me, man. Ame shouted. The memory snapped away. Daniel gasped. I didn't know, he whispered. I didn't know it would be the last time. The door slammed. Hard. The knocking stopped. But the ticking didn't. And now, it was louder. Faster. Because it wasn't just one thing anymore. It was many. Daniel stumbled back, his mind racing. This is what it meant, he whispered. Not just Zara. Every unfinished moment. Every unresolved choice. Every person he left behind. They were all connected. And now, they were all coming back. Another sound. From the hallway. Multiple footsteps. Not one. Several. Daniel turned slowly toward the door. Shadows moved beneath it. More than one. Voices overlapped. Soft at first. Then clearer. You said you'd call me back. You promised. Why didn't you come? You left. Daniel covered his ears. Stop, he whispered. But they didn't stop. They grew louder. More desperate. More real. The door handle began to turn. Slowly. Daniel's chest tightened. They're not just memories, he realized. They were moments that never ended. Still waiting. Still unresolved. And now, they had found him again. The door creaked open. Just slightly. A hand reached through. Then another. Then another. Different hands. Different people. All reaching. Daniel stumbled back, shaking his head. No, no. The figure from before appeared behind them. Watching. Calm. You opened the door, it said. Daniel's voice cracked. How do I close it? The figure tilted its head. You don't. Silence. Daniel's heart sank. Then how do I stop this? The figure stepped closer, the shadows behind it shifting, the hands still reaching, the voices still calling. You finish it. Daniel shook his head. All of it? The figure smiled. That same broken smile. You don't get to choose just one anymore. The truth hit harder than anything before. He had opened something bigger, wider, more dangerous. You have to go back, the figure said. Daniel's breath caught. Back? The figure nodded slowly. To where it all connects. The basement. Daniel looked toward the floor. Toward the door downstairs. The only place that could contain this. The only place that could end it. Or trap him forever. The voices grew louder. Closer. More desperate. Daniel. Please. Don't leave again. He closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. And understood. This time, he wouldn't be going back alone. Daniel didn't hesitate this time. He couldn't afford to. The voices were getting louder. Closer. The door behind him creaked wider. Hands forcing their way through. Different ages. Different sizes. Different lives. All reaching. All waiting. Daniel. Please. Don't leave again. He turned and ran. Out of his room. Into the hallway. The house twisted around him as he moved. Walls stretched. The floor warped beneath his feet. Like the basement was already spreading. He reached the staircase. The wall clock above it. 3:17. Always 3:17. The ticking now unbearable. Tick 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 tick. Daniel rushed down the stairs. The basement door stood open. Wide. Waiting. Behind him. Footsteps. Not one. Many. He didn't look back. He stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything changed. The house disappeared. The basement unfolded. Expanded. Endless. Not a room. A space made of moments. Fragments everywhere. Hundreds. Thousands. Each one flickering with unfinished pieces of lives. The voices followed him in. But they weren't behind him anymore. They were here. All around him. Daniel stood at the center of it, breathing hard. This is it, he whispered. The darkness pulsed. Stronger than ever. But different now. Watching him. Waiting. Zara appeared in front of him. Not flickering. Not broken. Clear. Real. You came back, she said softly. Daniel nodded. I had to. Behind him, the others began to take shape. The figures from the hallway. Dozens of people. Not fully formed. But present. Waiting. Daniel turned slowly. Each face carried something. Hurt. Anger. But mostly. Unfinished. This is everything, he said quietly. Zara nodded. Everything you left behind. Silence. Heavy. Daniel swallowed. And if I fix it? The darkness answered this time. All moments will resolve. And if I don't? A pause. Then, they remain. Daniel's chest tightened. And me? Zara looked at him, not as something broken, as someone who knew. You already know. He did. If he fixed them, he wouldn't stay. Not as himself. Not at all. Because he wasn't just part of the moment anymore. He was the one holding them together. To resolve everything, he had to let go of everything. Daniel closed his eyes. Took a slow breath. All of them, he whispered. The faces around him shifted. Watching. Waiting. He stepped forward, toward the nearest figure. Amir. I'm sorry, Daniel said. The words echoed, stronger than before. I should have answered you. Amir's form flickered, stabilized. For a moment, he looked real, alive. I just needed you to listen, Amir said quietly. Daniel nodded. I know. Amir smiled faintly. Then, he disappeared. Not violently, not painfully, gently, like a moment finally ending. The space shifted. One fragment gone. Daniel turned to the next. A woman. A stranger. And yet, he remembered. A moment he had ignored. A chance he didn't take. I'm sorry, he said again. And again. The same result. Release. One by one. He faced them. Spoke the truth. Accepted what he had done. Didn't run. Didn't hide. And each time, a moment ended. A fragment disappeared. The space grew smaller. Lighter. Zara watched from a distance. Silent. Waiting. Until finally, only one remained. Huh. Daniel stepped forward slowly. His chest tight. His voice unsteady. I'm sorry. Zara didn't move. Didn't respond. I left you, he said. I heard you, and I still left. Tears filled his eyes. I can't fix that. A long silence. Then, Zara stepped closer, her expression soft. Human. You came back, she said. Daniel nodded. I did. Another pause. Then, she smiled. Then it's okay. The words broke something inside him. Zara stepped closer, and gently, took his hand. For the first time, he felt it. Real. Warm. Thank you for staying, she whispered. The space around them began to collapse. Not violently. Peacefully. Light spread through the darkness, filling every corner, every fragment, every moment. Daniel felt himself fading. Not painfully, not forcefully, naturally. He looked at Zara one last time. She was smiling. Not broken. Not waiting. Free. Goodbye, he whispered. She shook her head softly. Not goodbye, she said. Finished. And then, everything disappeared. Morning light filled the room. A different room. A different house. A woman stood in the kitchen, pouring tea. A soft smile on her face. A child ran past her, laughing. Be careful, she called out gently. The house felt warm. Lived in. Real. On the wall, a clock ticked steadily. Normal. Alive. And for just a moment, the woman paused. A strange feeling passing through her. Something she couldn't explain. Like a memory she never had. Then, it faded. And the clock kept ticking. Not stuck. Not broken. Moving forward. No one in the building ever talked about the elevator. Not because it was special, but because it wasn't supposed to be there. It was installed between floors 6 and 7 of the Orion Heights apartment complex. A modern high-rise. Glass balconies. Security cameras. Everything normal. Except the elevator. Because there was no button for floor 7. Not really. There was floor 6. Then floor 8. But if you looked closely at the panel, there was a faint, scratched label beneath the 6 button. Almost erased. Almost forgotten. -1. Ryan noticed it the night he moved in. He was tired. Carrying boxes. Sweat on his shirt. New city smell still in the air. He pressed the elevator button. The doors opened instantly. Too instantly. Like it had been waiting. Inside, the light was slightly too dim. The mirror slightly too clean. And the floor numbers slightly misaligned. Ryan frowned. Then shrugged. Cheap building, he muttered. He pressed 6. The doors closed. Normal ride. Smooth. quiet. Until the elevator stopped. But not at 6. Not at 7. Between them, a soft ding. The display flickered. 6. The doors didn't open. Ryan frowned. "Hello," he said, pressing the button again. Nothing. Then, a second ding. The display changed. 6-1. Ryan stepped back. "What the hell?" he whispered. The elevator dropped. But not like normal motion. Not like gravity. More like reality, skipping. The air didn't move. His stomach didn't sink. But something in his mind did. Then, it stopped. The doors opened. Cold air hit his face. And what he saw was impossible. There was a floor outside. But it wasn't concrete. It wasn't metal. It was carpet. Old. Gray. Endless. A hallway stretched into darkness. Lights flickered weakly above. Buzzing. Inconsistent. And the sign above the corridor read, "Floor -1. Ryan blinked. "This isn't real," he said. The elevator behind him closed. He turned quickly. Pressed the button. Nothing. No response. Okay, he muttered. He pressed every button. Nothing. Then, -1 lit up. From the inside panel. Even though he wasn't touching it. The elevator didn't move. It was gone. Ryan swallowed. And stepped out. The moment his foot touched the carpet, the elevator doors shut behind him. Silently. Like it had never been there. He turned. Only wall remained. No elevator. No buttons. Just a concrete hallway stretching both directions. And silence. Too much silence. Then, a faint sound. Footsteps. Somewhere far ahead. Slow. Deliberate. Ryan froze. "Hello," he called out. His voice didn't echo. It just disappeared. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice answered. "Soft. Close. Too close. You're not supposed to be here." Ryan spun around. No one. But the hallway had changed. Subtly. Now longer. Now darker. Now narrower. The carpet looked damp. The lights flickered in a slower rhythm. Like the building was breathing. "Who's there?" Ryan asked. Silence. Then, a door appeared on the left wall. It hadn't been there before. Wooden. Old. Number plate missing. The handle slowly turned. Ryan backed away. "Nope. I am not doing this," he whispered. The voice returned. This time behind him. "You already did." He turned. Nothing. But the hallway was shorter now. The exit was gone. Only doors. More doors. Appearing along the walls. One by one. Until the corridor was lined with them. Every door slightly open. Every door whispering. Ryan's breathing got heavier. "What is this place?" he said. A door creaked open fully. And something stepped out. Not a person. Not fully. It looked like a maintenance worker. But its face was unfinished. Like someone erased it halfway. "You used the elevator," it said. Ryan stepped back. "I didn't choose this," he snapped. The thing tilted its head. "You did." The hallway lights flickered violently. More doors opened. More figures stepped out. All incomplete. All wrong. Ryan's mind raced. "This is a basement under the building," he muttered. "But there is no basement." The faceless worker smiled slightly. "There is now." The lights dimmed. The hallway stretched again. And every door whispered the same thing. -1 remembers what you forget. Ryan's phone vibrated. He pulled it out. No signal. Battery 100%. But the screen showed something else. Call log, unknown number, missed, 47. He never made those calls. He never saw that number. But it kept ringing in his mind. The worker stepped closer. "You'll stay here soon." Ryan backed away. "No. I'm leaving." The worker shook its head. "No elevator goes up from -1. Behind Ryan, a new door appeared. Wider than the others. Open. Bright light inside. The worker whispered. "That one is for forgetting." Ryan turned toward it. Then stopped. Because he understood. One door meant staying. The other meant forgetting everything that brought him here. And somewhere deep inside, something inside him whispered, "You've been here before." The hallway lights went out. And the doors began to close. One by one. Surrounding him. Ryan stood between them and made his choice. The door of light didn't feel like an exit. It felt like a mistake pretending to be hope. Ryan stood in the middle of the hallway, breathing shallow, watching it glow. The other doors had gone quiet. No whispers now. No movement. Just that one door, open, steady, waiting. Behind him, the faceless worker didn't move. It didn't need to, because Ryan already understood something terrible. Nothing here chased you. It simply waited for you to decide wrong. You're hesitating, the worker said softly. Ryan didn't look at it. If I go through that door, he said slowly, I forget everything. A pause. Then, yes. That single word felt heavier than the entire hallway. Ryan turned slightly. So what happens if I don't? The lights above him flickered. The hallway stretched again, just a few centimeters, but enough to feel wrong. You stay, the worker replied. And eventually, you become part of this floor. Ryan frowned. Part of what, exactly? Silence. Then the answer came, quieter. The unfinished. The word didn't make sense at first. But his mind rejected that comfort. Because the longer he stood there, the more the hallway felt crowded. Not physically, not visually, but mentally. Like there were too many thoughts that didn't belong to him. Too many memories brushing against his own. And then he saw it. A shadow standing inside one of the closed doors. Still. Watching. Ryan stepped back. That's a person. The faceless worker shook its head slightly. Not anymore. The shadow inside the door shifted. And for a second, it looked like a man. Middle-aged. Wearing an office shirt. Tired eyes. He pressed his hand against the glass of the door, mouthing something Ryan couldn't hear. Ryan moved closer instinctively. What is he doing there? The worker answered. He forgot something important. Ryan frowned. That doesn't make sense. Another pause. Then, he chose to forget it. The phrase landed differently this time. He chose. Ryan stepped closer to the door. The man inside looked directly at him now. And suddenly, Ryan understood something horrifying. The man was not trapped. He was settled. Like this place had accepted him as part of its structure. The man raised his hand slowly, pointed at Ryan, and mouthed one word. Don't. Ryan stepped back quickly. What does he mean? He asked. The worker finally moved. Just one step closer. Enough to make Ryan feel smaller. He means what all of them mean. The hallway lights flickered again. More doors became visible now. Not just along the walls, but laid behind them. As if the hallway was deeper than it should be. Stacked realities. Stacked people. Stacked moments. All of them. Ryan asked. The worker nodded slightly. Everyone who chose the other door. Ryan turned slowly toward the glowing exit again. And they forgot everything. No, the worker said. A pause. Then, they forgot what made them leave. That didn't sound like freedom. It sounded like erasure with permission. Ryan's chest tightened. So they had just stuck here. The worker looked at him carefully. Stuck is a human word. The hallway creaked. Not physically, but like reality shifting its weight. They are maintained, it continued. So the floor doesn't collapse. Ryan shook his head. This is insane. A faint sound echoed behind him. A door opening. Another figure stepping out. This one wasn't a worker. It looked like a young woman. But her outline flickered, like a weak signal. She looked at Ryan with sudden intensity. Don't go through that door, she said immediately. Ryan froze. Who are you? She laughed once. It wasn't happy. It was tired. I was you, she said. The faceless worker didn't react. Like this was expected. Ryan stepped back slightly. What do you mean? The woman pointed at the glowing exit. That door took my fear, she said. Then it took my reason for fear. Ryan frowned. That sounds like... Peace, she interrupted. Then shook her head. No, it sounds like nothing. Silence fell. Even the hallway seemed to stop shifting for a moment. The woman stepped closer. I don't remember my name, she said. But I remember choosing that door. Ryan looked at her carefully. You regret it? She paused. Then, I don't know what regret is anymore. That answer was worse than yes. The worker spoke again. She stabilized. Ryan looked between them. Stabilized. The worker nodded. She no longer collapses into panic loops. The woman smiled faintly. It's quiet, she said, then hesitated. But it's not mine. Ryan's throat tightened. So you're telling me, if I go through that door, I lose myself? The worker answered calmly. You lose what keeps you from staying here. The hallway lights dimmed. The doors along the walls creaked open slightly, like they were listening. Ryan looked at all of them. All those faces. All those unfinished lives. And if I stay? He asked. The woman answered first. You become part of us. The worker added. Until someone else replaces your instability. Ryan took a step back. So nobody leaves. A pause. Then, no one returns, the worker corrected. The distinction hit hard. Ryan looked at the glowing exit again. The light pulsed softly. Inviting. Warm. False. You're not helping me, he said quietly. The woman laughed again. Helping you would mean lying. The hallway groaned. Deeper now. As if something beneath it shifted. Ryan felt it then. Not fear. Not confusion. Something worse. Recognition. This place wasn't just a trap. It was a system. A correction. A storage for everything people refused to finish. Every apology not made. Every goodbye avoided. Every responsibility dropped. All of it had somewhere to go. And this was it. Ryan looked at the faceless worker. You said I used the elevator. The worker nodded. But I don't remember choosing this place. A pause. Then, you don't remember a lot of things, it replied. The hallway flickered. For a split second, Ryan saw himself, standing in the elevator, pressing a button. Not -1. Not 6. Something else. Something blurred. His breath caught. No, he whispered. The image vanished. The worker stepped closer. You are already partially here. Ryan shook his head. I'm not staying. The woman sighed. That's what we all said. Ryan looked at the glowing exit again, then at the doors, then at the people inside them, and he realized something horrifying. There was no direction that didn't cost something. The exit cost memory. The hallway cost identity. So what do I choose? He asked quietly. The worker tilted its head. That depends on what you're willing to lose. The lights flickered violently. The hallway stretched again, and somewhere deep below, something responded to his indecision. The floor itself felt alive now, breathing, waiting. Ryan took a slow step forward, not toward the exit, not toward the doors, but toward understanding. And that's when he heard it, a new sound, not ticking, not footsteps, an elevator, moving, somewhere below floor -1, rising, and every person in the hallway went still, including the worker, including the woman, because nothing was supposed to come back up. The woman whispered, That's not possible. The lights went out, and in total darkness, a new voice spoke, from inside the walls, doors opening again. The sound wasn't loud, but it was wrong. An elevator should hum. It should vibrate. It should announce itself. This one didn't. It arrived. The darkness in the hallway thickened. Not just the absence of light, but something pressing inward. Everyone froze. The faceless worker, the flickering woman, the figures behind the doors. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Then, a faint glow appeared at the far end of the corridor. Not warm like the exit. Cold. Artificial. A square of light. Elevator doors. Ryan's heart pounded. That's not the one I came in, he whispered. The worker's voice came slowly. No. The doors slid open. Without a sound. Inside, there was no panel. No buttons. No mirror. Just darkness. And something standing inside it. At first, it didn't look like anything. Just a shape. Too tall. Too still. Then it stepped forward, and the hallway reacted. The lights flickered violently. Doors slammed shut. Some of the figures inside them screamed, then went silent. Ryan stumbled back. What is that? He asked. No one answered, because they all knew. The thing stepped out of the elevator, and the moment it did, reality shifted. The hallway didn't stretch this time. It compressed, like space was folding inward around it. The thing had no clear form. Every second it looked different. A man, a child, a shadow, a reflection, but none of them stayed long enough to understand. Ryan's head hurt just looking at it. "What is it?" he repeated. This time, the worker answered, but its voice was different, lower, almost uncertain. "It's a what remains." Ryan frowned. "That doesn't mean anything." The woman spoke next, quieter than before, fear in her voice. "It's what's left when even forgetting fails." The words hit hard. Ryan looked at the thing again, and suddenly, he understood. Everything here existed because people left something unfinished, and then chose to forget it. But what if someone didn't forget? What if they refused to forget, but still walked away? What if a moment stayed unresolved? Even in memory, that wasn't stored, that wasn't stabilized, that was rejected. The thing stepped closer, and every door in the hallway trembled. The worker moved for the first time, stepping between Ryan and the thing. "You shouldn't be here," it said. The thing stopped, tilted its head, and spoke. But the voice wasn't one voice. It was hundreds, layered, broken. "You couldn't hold it." The worker didn't respond. "You tried to store it." The walls cracked slightly, thin fractures spreading across the concrete. But it didn't fit. Ryan felt something cold crawl up his spine. "What didn't fit?" he whispered. The thing turned toward him, slowly, deliberately, and for a split second, Ryan saw a face. His own. He stumbled back. "No." The thing stepped closer. "You remember," it said. The hallway lights exploded. Darkness swallowed everything. And suddenly, Ryan wasn't in the hallway anymore. He was somewhere else. A room. Small. Locked. A voice calling his name. But not Zara. Another one. Older. Desperate. "Ryan, please, open the door." His breath caught. "I know this," he whispered. But he didn't want to. The memory sharpened. Him. Standing outside. Hand on the handle. Hearing the voice. And walking away. No. The memory shattered. He was back in the hallway. The thing stood directly in front of him now. Closer than anything should be. "You left more than you think," it said. Ryan shook his head violently. "I don't remember that." The thing leaned closer. "That's why I exist." The words hit like a... The worker stepped forward again. "You are not part of this system," it said. The thing turned slightly. "And you are failing to contain it." The hallway shook. More cracks. More distortion. The doors along the walls began to disappear. Not opening. Not closing. Erasing. The woman screamed. "What is it doing?" The worker answered. But this time, it sounded afraid. "It's collapsing the floor." Ryan's heart dropped. "Why?" The answer came from the thing. "Because this isn't enough." The space warped violently. The hallway bent. Folded. Like it was being pulled downward. Towards something deeper. "This place holds what people abandon," the thing continued. "But I am what they refuse to face." The difference was subtle, but deadly. Abandoning something meant leaving it behind. Refusing to face it meant denying it completely. And denial didn't get stored. It grew. The thing stepped closer again. "And now," it said, "you brought me back up." Ryan's chest tightened. "I didn't." "You opened the door." The same words again. But now, they meant something worse. He didn't just enter floor -1. He connected it to everything above, to the real world. The worker turned to Ryan. "You have to go back down," it said. Ryan shook his head. "There is no down below this." The worker didn't respond immediately. Then, it pointed at the elevator. Still open. Still waiting. "There is now." The thing smiled. A shifting, broken expression. "Yes," it said softly. "Let's go deeper." The elevator behind it changed. The display flickered. -1, -2. The hallway trembled violently. Because this wasn't supposed to exist. There was no floor -2. Until now. Ryan stared at the number. And realized. This wasn't about escaping anymore. It was about stopping something that shouldn't exist at all. The number shouldn't have been there. -2. It flickered on the elevator display like a mistake trying to become permanent. Ryan couldn't look away. That's not real, he whispered. But the hallway disagreed. The walls bent inward. The doors that once held people were gone, erased, like they were never enough to contain what was coming. The thing stood beside the elevator now, still shifting, still wrong. You wanted to understand, it said. Ryan shook his head. No, I just wanted to leave. The thing tilted its head. Same thing. Behind Ryan, the faceless worker stepped forward. Its movements were slower now, less certain. You cannot go with it, the worker said. Ryan didn't turn. Then tell me another option. Silence. That was the answer. The woman, the one who forgot her name, grabbed his arm suddenly. Don't go down there, she said. Her voice trembled in a way it hadn't before. That's not part of the system. Ryan looked at her. You said this place holds what we leave behind. She nodded quickly. But that, she said, pointing at the elevator, that's what doesn't stay behind. The distinction cut deep. Ryan turned back toward the elevator. The inside was still empty. Still dark. Waiting. And somehow, he knew, if he stepped in, this wouldn't be like floor -1. There would be no rules. No structure. No guarantees of return. Only truth. The thing stepped inside first, without hesitation. Then it turned, and looked at him. Come see what you refused to remember. The words echoed in his head. Not forced, not threatening, inviting. And that's what made it dangerous. Ryan clenched his fists. If I go down there, he said slowly, can I stop this? The thing smiled. You can try. Not reassuring, not comforting, honest. Ryan took a step forward. The woman tightened her grip. Don't, she whispered. You'll lose everything. Ryan looked at her, then at the worker. You already lost everything, he said quietly. She froze. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. He gently pulled his arm free, and stepped into the elevator. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the hallway vanished. No transition, no movement, just gone. The doors closed behind him. Total darkness. Then, a sound. Not a hum. Not motion. A shift. Like something beneath reality moved. The elevator dropped. But this time, he felt it. His stomach twisted. His bones felt heavier. His thoughts slowed. Then sped up. Then fractured. Hold on to something, the thing said. Ryan laughed weakly. There's nothing here. Exactly. The drop continued. And then, it stopped. Abrupt. Violent. The doors opened. There was no hallway. No walls. No ceiling. Just a space. Endless. Dark. But not empty. Floating fragments surrounded them. Pieces of places. A kitchen table. A broken phone. A door half open. A chair facing nothing. Each one suspended in nothingness. Disconnected. Unfinished. Ryan stepped out slowly. What is this? He whispered. The thing stepped beside him. This is where it goes when it doesn't belong anywhere else. Ryan looked around. These are memories. The thing shook its head. No. A pause. These are truths that were rejected. The words settled heavily. Not forgotten. Rejected. Ryan stepped toward one of the fragments. A small room. Dimly lit. A phone ringing on a table. Over and over. He reached out. The moment he touched it, the world snapped. He was inside it, standing in the room. The phone ringing. Loud. Insistent. And he knew this moment. He knew exactly what this was. His breath caught. No. The phone kept ringing. On the screen. A name. Mother. Ryan stepped back. I remember this. His voice shook. I ignored this call. The ringing stopped. Silence. Then, the room shifted. The door opened. And someone stepped inside. His mother. But something was wrong. She didn't look at him. Didn't see him. She picked up the phone. Checked it. And whispered. You didn't answer. Her voice broke. Ryan staggered backward. No. I called you later. I did. The thing's voice echoed behind him. You told yourself that. The room cracked. Shattered. He was back in the void. Breathing hard. That's not how it happened, he said. The thing turned toward him. Then why is this what remains? Ryan froze. Because deep down, he knew. This wasn't a memory. It was the version he never allowed himself to face. The one where he didn't fix it. Didn't make it right. Another fragment drifted closer. Larger. Darker. Ryan stepped back. I don't want to see this one. The thing moved closer. You don't get to choose anymore. The fragment pulled him in. Before he could resist. Darkness. Then, a locked door. A voice on the other side. Crying. Begging. Ryan, please. His blood ran cold. This wasn't just memory. This was something worse. Because this time, he remembered everything. The crying didn't echo. It pressed inward. Like the sound wasn't coming from the other side of the door, but from inside Ryan's chest. Ryan, please. His hand trembled as it hovered near the handle. He knew this moment. Not vaguely. Not partially. Completely. And that was the difference. Floor -1 showed what you left behind. Floor -2 showed what you refused to remember. I didn't, he whispered. But the words felt hollow. Because he did. The door was old. Wood cracked at the edges. Paint peeling. The handle was cold. Too cold. Like it had been waiting. Ryan, please. I'm scared. The voice broke. And something inside him broke with it. I remember now, he said. The thing stood behind him. Silent. Watching. You locked it, it said quietly. Ryan flinched. No, I didn't lock it. But even as he said it, the memory corrected him. His hand, turning the key. The sound of the lock clicking into place. His breathing quickened. I just needed time, he said. The thing didn't respond. Because it didn't need to. He already knew the truth. I thought, Ryan's voice cracked. I thought if I walked away, it would stop. The crying on the other side of the door grew louder. More desperate. You promised you'd stay. Ryan squeezed his eyes shut. I couldn't handle it, he whispered. The words felt weak. Small. Not enough to justify anything. The thing stepped closer. You didn't forget this, it said. Ryan's breath hitched. You buried it. The difference hit like a blow. Forgetting was passive. Burying was a choice. And choices had consequences. The door rattled suddenly. Hard. Something slammed against it from the inside. Ryan, please. His eyes snapped open. That wasn't just fear. That was pain. Real. His hand moved to the handle again. But this time, he hesitated for a different reason. What happens if I open it? He asked. The thing answered immediately. You face it. And if I don't? A pause. Then, you already know. Ryan looked around. The void had changed. The floating fragments were closer now. Watching. Not physically, but somehow. Aware. Because this moment mattered. More than the others. This is where you broke it, the thing said. Ryan swallowed hard. Broke what? The thing leaned closer. Yourself. The words hit deeper than anything else. Because they weren't dramatic. They were precise. The crying softened. Weaker now. Tired. I don't want to be alone, the voice whispered. Ryan's chest tightened painfully. I didn't think, he said. I didn't think it would matter this much. The thing tilted its head. That's the problem. Silence fell. Heavy. Ryan placed his hand on the handle. This time, he didn't pull away. I can't change what I did, he said quietly. The thing nodded slightly. No, but I can stop pretending it didn't happen. The crying stopped. Suddenly. Completely. The silence that followed was worse. Because it wasn't empty. It was waiting. Ryan took a slow breath. And turned the handle. The lock clicked open. The door creaked slowly. Revealing darkness inside. Then, a figure. Curled in the corner. Small. Shaking. Ryan stepped inside. The room was colder than anything he had felt before. Not physically. Emotionally. The figure didn't look up. Didn't react. I'm here, Ryan said softly. No response. He stepped closer. Kneeling slowly. I shouldn't have left, he said. I shouldn't have locked the door. The figure trembled. Still not looking at him. I was scared, Ryan continued. But that's not an excuse. A long silence. Then, you didn't come back, The voice was small, broken. Ryan's throat tightened. I know. I waited. Tears filled his eyes. I know. The figure slowly looked up, and Ryan froze. Because it wasn't someone else. It was him. A younger version. Smaller. Terrified. I thought you forgot me, the child whispered. Ryan shook his head. I didn't forget you. The child's expression didn't change. Then why didn't you come back? There was no answer that could fix it. No explanation that would make it right. So Ryan didn't try. I was wrong, he said simply. The child stared at him, searching. Then, slowly, I was scared too, the child said. Ryan nodded. I know. A long pause. Then, the child reached out, hesitantly. Ryan took his hand, and the moment he did, everything changed. The room dissolved. The cold faded. The fear lifted. The child smiled faintly. Then, he disappeared. Not erased. Not broken. Resolved. Ryan stood alone in the void again, breathing heavily. But something felt different. Lighter. The thing stood in front of him, watching. That's how it starts, it said. Ryan looked at it. What are you? The thing tilted its head. I am what's left when you don't do that. Ryan understood now. This thing wasn't just made from one moment. It was made from all of them. All the doors he never opened. All the truths he never faced. All the versions of himself he abandoned. And if I keep going? Ryan asked. The thing stepped back. For the first time. Creating space. Then I stop existing. Silence. Ryan looked around at the fragments. Hundreds left. Maybe thousands. This will take forever, he said. The thing nodded. Yes. Ryan exhaled slowly. Then took a step forward. Toward the next fragment. I'm not leaving anything behind this time. The void shifted. And for the first time, it didn't resist him. The next fragment didn't wait. It moved toward him. Not drifting like the others. Choosing him. Ryan braced himself. I'm ready, he said quietly. The thing behind him didn't respond. It didn't need to anymore. Because this part was his. The fragment snapped open and pulled him in. This time, he didn't fall. He stood in a place he didn't recognize at first. A hospital corridor. White walls. Fluorescent lights. The smell. Sharp. Sterile. His chest tightened instantly. I know this, he whispered. The sound of a monitor beeped somewhere nearby. Steady. Alive. But something about it felt temporary. Ryan walked forward slowly, each step heavier than the last. Because this memory wasn't buried as deep as the others. It wasn't forgotten. It was avoided. A door stood at the end of the hallway. Half open. Light spilling through. Voices inside. Low. Serious. Ryan stopped just outside. Listening. You should go in, someone said. I don't think I can, another voice replied. Ryan froze. That second voice was his. He looked inside and saw himself, older, standing outside the same room, pacing, avoiding the door. I don't want to see him like that, past Ryan said. A woman stood beside him. Tired eyes. She's been asking for you, she said gently. Ryan's breath caught. She, he whispered. The memory sharpened. The truth surfaced. His grandmother. Past Ryan shook his head. I'll come back later, he said. The woman frowned. You said that yesterday. Silence. Heavy. I just need time, past Ryan muttered. Ryan felt something twist inside him. Not confusion. Recognition. I didn't go in, he whispered. The thing's voice echoed faintly. No. The scene continued. Past Ryan turned away. Walked down the hallway. Didn't look back. The monitor inside the room beeped steadily. Then, flatlined. The sound cut through everything. Sharp. Final. Ryan staggered backward. No. The world froze. The hallway. The door. The people. All still. And then, everything turned toward him. Not physically, but in meaning. Because this wasn't just memory. This was judgment. I didn't know, Ryan said. But even as he spoke, he knew that wasn't true. He did know. He just didn't want to face it. The door to the hospital room creaked open. Slowly. On its own. Ryan stared at it. "I can't change this," he said. The thing answered. "No. Then what am I supposed to do?" A pause. Then, "Stop pretending you couldn't have." The words hit deeper than anything before. Because this wasn't about guilt. It was about honesty. Ryan took a step toward the door. His legs felt heavy. Resistant. Like something inside him didn't want to go in. "That's new," he muttered. The thing's voice sharpened slightly. "This one fights back." Ryan froze. "What do you mean?" The hallway shifted. Subtly at first. Then more. The walls stretched. The lights flickered violently. The air thickened. "This isn't just memory anymore," the thing said. "It's defense." Ryan's chest tightened. Defense against what? The answer came. From the room. "You don't belong here." Ryan turned slowly. The voice was hers. His grandmother. But it didn't sound weak. Didn't sound tired. It sounded wrong. He stepped into the room. And saw her. Sitting upright in the bed. Eyes open. Watching him. But this wasn't real. Because in the real memory, she never opened her eyes. "You left," she said. Her voice steady. Too steady. Ryan shook his head. "I was scared." Her expression didn't change. "That's not why." The machines around her began to glitch. Beeping irregularly. Lights flickering. "You left because you didn't want to feel it," she continued. The room distorted. Walls bending. Reality breaking. Ryan stepped back. "That's not." "It is." Her voice led. Not just hers anymore. Other voices beneath it. His own. The thing's. "You don't fix this by showing up now," it said. Ryan's breathing quickened. "Then how do I fix it?" Silence. Then. "You don't." The room cracked. Shattered. Fragments floating again. Ryan dropped to his knees in the void. Breathing hard. "I can't fix everything," he whispered. The thing stood in front of him. For the first time. Completely still. "No," it said. Ryan looked up. "Then what is this even for?" A long pause. Then. "To stop lying about it." Silence. Heavy. Ryan sat there. Processing. Understanding. This wasn't about rewriting the past. It was about accepting it fully. Without excuses. Without distortion. He slowly stood. Wiped his face. And looked at the fragments again. Hundreds left. "I can't change what happened," he said. "But I can stop running from it." The void shifted. This time. Not resisting. Not collapsing. Opening. The thing stepped back further. Smaller now. Weaker. But not gone. "Keep going," it said. Ryan nodded. And stepped toward the next truth. But deep in the void. Something moved. Something larger. Something older. Because the deeper truths weren't just painful. They were dangerous. The void didn't feel empty anymore. It felt aware. Watching him. Measuring him. Ryan moved slowly between the fragments. Each one pulsed faintly. Like a heartbeat. But they were different now. He could feel it. The ones he had already faced. They were quiet. Stable. But the ones ahead. They reacted to him. Like they didn't want to be touched. The thing followed at a distance. Smaller now. Less defined. But still there. "You're getting closer," it said. Ryan didn't look back. Closer to what? The answer came after a pause. "The one you built everything around." Ryan's chest tightened. "I didn't build this." The thing didn't argue. It didn't need to. Because deep down, he already knew that wasn't true. A new fragment drifted forward. Larger than the others. Darker. Heavier. Ryan stopped. "This is it," he whispered. He didn't know how he knew. But he did. This is where it started. The thing didn't respond. Because this part didn't belong to it. Ryan stepped closer. The fragment didn't pull him in immediately. It waited. Like it was giving him a choice. "I've already made it this far," he said quietly. "No point stopping now." The moment his hand touched it, everything collapsed. No transition. No warning. He was there. A small room. Familiar. Too familiar. His childhood home. Ryan's breath caught. No. The air felt thick. heavy with something unspoken. Voices echoed from another room. Raised. Angry. He moved slowly toward the sound. Each step reluctant. Each step remembered. The voices became clearer. "You always do this," a man shouted. "I'm trying," a woman replied. "Trying isn't enough anymore." Ryan stopped at the doorway. He knew what he was about to see, and he didn't want to. But he forced himself to look. His parents. Arguing. Louder than he remembered. More intense. More real. And in the corner. A child. Him. Sitting silently. Watching. Ryan's chest tightened painfully. "I remember this," he whispered. But the thing's voice echoed faintly. "No." The scene shifted. Subtly, but enough. The argument changed. The words sharpened. The tone darkened. "You think I don't see it," the father snapped. "See what?" the mother demanded. A pause. Then, "Him." Ryan froze. The room went silent. The child looked up, confused, afraid. "He's always watching," the father continued, "like he's waiting for something to break." "That's not fair," the mother said. "He's just a kid." "No," the father said quietly. "He's already learned." Ryan's breath caught. "Learned what?" he whispered. The answer came. From his father. How to stay out of it. Silence. Heavy. How to pretend it's not happening. The words hit harder than anything before. Because they weren't loud. They weren't angry. They were true. Ryan stepped back slowly. That's not. But the memory didn't stop. The child stood up. Walked toward his parents. Hesitant. "Stop fighting," the child said softly. The room froze. Both parents turned. Looked at him. And for a moment, there was silence. Then, the father sighed. Ran a hand over his face. "We'll talk later," he muttered. And walked away. The mother followed. Quiet. Leaving the child alone in the room. Ryan stared at the scene. "That's not how I remember it." The thing's voice echoed again. "This is how it happened." Ryan shook his head. "No, they stopped because I..." He stopped. Because the truth surfaced. They didn't stop because of him. They stopped because they were tired. Because the fight had already ended. He just stepped in at the end. And told himself. He had made a difference. "That's the lie," the thing said quietly. Ryan's chest tightened. The first one. The room began to crack. The walls splintering. Reality fracturing. "You told yourself you could fix things," it continued. "That if you stayed quiet, stayed out of the way, you could keep everything from breaking." Ryan staggered backward. "I was just a kid." "Yes." The answer wasn't cruel. But it wasn't comforting either. "You built everything on that moment," the thing said. "Every time you avoided something. Every time you walked away. Every time you told yourself it would fix itself. It started here." The room collapsed completely. Ryan fell. Back into the void. He hit the ground hard. Breath knocked out of him. The fragments around him pulsed violently now. Reacting. Unstable. Because this truth was the core. The foundation. Ryan pushed himself up slowly. Shaking. "I didn't know," he whispered. The thing stood in front of him again. Barely holding its shape now. "You didn't need to," it said. "That's why it worked." Silence. Heavy. Ryan looked at his hands. At the fragments. At everything he had uncovered. "I thought I was protecting myself," he said quietly. The thing shook its head. "No. You were protecting the lie." The void trembled. Deeper now. Something beneath everything shifting. Because the foundation was cracking. And when the foundation breaks, everything above it follows. Ryan looked up. Determination slowly replacing fear. "Then I finish it," he said. The thing stepped back. Further than ever before. Almost gone now. "You can't," it said. Ryan frowned. "Why not?" A pause. Then, "Because this one doesn't end." The void split open. And something beneath it finally rose. The void didn't crack. It opened. Like something beneath it had been waiting. Not trapped. Just patient. Ryan staggered back as the darkness split into something deeper. Not a hole. Not a space. A presence. Cold spread outward. Not physical cold. The kind that made thoughts slow down. The kind that made certainty feel dangerous. This is it, Ryan whispered. The thing, the shifting entity that had followed him this far, stood still, completely still. For the first time. It didn't look like it was changing. It looked like it was afraid. You weren't supposed to reach this, it said. Ryan didn't take his eyes off the opening. Then why does it exist? A pause. Longer than any before. Then, because you needed it. That answer didn't make sense. And yet, it felt right. The darkness below pulsed once, and something rose from it. Not like the thing before. Not shifting. Not unstable. This was clear. A figure stepped out. It looked like Ryan, but not younger, not older, simpler, calmer, empty. Ryan's breath caught. Who are you? The figure tilted its head slightly. I'm the version of you that never believed the lie. The words hit instantly, harder than anything else. That doesn't make sense, Ryan said. It does, the figure replied calmly. You created a version of yourself who thought he could fix everything by doing nothing. It took a step closer. I'm what's left when that belief is removed. Ryan shook his head. No, that's not possible. The figure didn't react. It's already happening. Ryan froze. Because it was. Everything he had faced. Every truth. Every memory. It was stripping something away. Layer by layer. I'm not becoming you, Ryan said. The figure's expression didn't change. You already are. The void trembled again. The fragments around them began to dissolve. Not violently. Not painfully. Quietly. Ryan looked around. All of that, everything I fixed. It wasn't fixing, the figure said. It was removing distortion. Ryan's chest tightened. And what happens when it's all gone? The figure stepped closer. Then there's nothing left to hide behind. Silence. Heavy. Ryan looked at him, at it, carefully now. You don't feel anything, do you? He said. The figure paused. Then. No. That answer chilled him more than anything else. Then you're not real, Ryan said. The figure shook its head slightly. I'm the most real version of you here. Ryan clenched his fists. No, you're what's left if I erase everything. The figure nodded. Yes. That was the problem. Not fear. Not pain. Absence. If I keep going, Ryan said slowly, I lose everything that makes me, me. The figure didn't argue. Yes. The honesty was suffocating. Ryan looked down at his hands. They felt lighter, less anchored. This isn't healing, he said quietly. The figure tilted its head. It is. No, Ryan snapped. This is deleting parts of myself. The void pulsed again. Stronger, like it was reacting to his resistance. The figure stepped closer. Those parts are built on something false. That doesn't mean they don't matter. Ryan shouted. Silence. For the first time. The figure hesitated. And that was enough. Ryan stepped forward. Closer. You think being complete means removing everything broken, he said. The figure didn't respond. But being human is being broken. The words echoed. Not just in the space, but inside him. You're not me, Ryan said firmly. You're what's left if I stop feeling. The figure's expression shifted slightly. Not emotion, but something unstable. That is not weakness, it said. No, Ryan replied. It's what makes everything matter. The void trembled violently now. The fragments flickering. Reality destabilizing. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to reject the final step. You can't keep both, the figure said. Watch me. Ryan stepped forward and did something he hadn't done before. He didn't reject the truth, but he didn't let it erase him either. I was wrong, he said. I avoided things. I ran. I made excuses. The void pulsed. The figure didn't move. But that's not all I am. Another pulse. Stronger. I felt things. I cared. I tried, even when I failed. The figure flickered. Just slightly. And I'm not going to erase that just to feel clean. The silence that followed was different. Not heavy. Expectant. The figure stepped back. For the first time. You are choosing contradiction, it said. Ryan nodded. Yes. The void cracked again. But this time, It didn't open downward. It started closing. The fragments stabilized, not disappearing, not pulling him in, just existing. The thing behind him, what remained of it, watched silently, shrinking, fading. The figure in front of him began to dissolve. Not violently, not angrily, like it was no longer needed. "You will carry it all," it said. Ryan nodded. "I always did." The figure disappeared, and the void went still, completely still. For the first time since he arrived, nothing moved, nothing pulled, nothing waited. Ryan stood alone, breathing slowly, steady. Then, a sound, a familiar one, a ding. He turned. The elevator stood behind him. Doors open, light inside, the display red. Ground floor. Ryan stared at it. "It's over," he whispered. The silence didn't answer. But this time, it didn't need to. He stepped toward the elevator, and paused just before entering, looking back one last time, at the void, at everything he had faced. Nothing followed him. Nothing called out, because nothing was unfinished anymore. Ryan stepped inside. The doors closed, and the elevator began to rise. The elevator ride up felt normal, too normal. After everything Ryan had seen, everything he had become, normal felt suspicious. No flickering lights, no shifting walls, no impossible sounds, just the soft hum of machinery. Steady, predictable, safe. Ryan stared at his reflection in the mirror. It was him, completely him. No distortions, no missing pieces. But something was different, not visible, but felt, like standing in a room where something had just left, or just arrived. He exhaled slowly. "I'm back," he whispered. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Ground floor. The lobby of Orion Heights looked exactly the same. Bright lights, clean floors, muted conversations, a receptionist scrolling on her phone. No signs of anything unusual. No sign that an impossible place existed just a few floors above. Ryan stepped out cautiously, half expecting the floor to shift beneath him, half expecting the walls to breathe. But nothing happened. Everything was real. He walked toward the exit, each step lighter than the last, until he heard it, a faint sound, a ding. Behind him, Ryan froze. Slowly, he turned. The elevator doors were closing, but the display above them was wrong. Not G. Not 1. For just a split second, it read, -1. Then it flickered, and returned to normal. The doors shut completely. Silence. Ryan stared at them. "No," he whispered. "It's over." He turned away quickly, walking faster now. Toward the exit. Toward sunlight. Toward anything that felt real. The glass doors slid open. Warm air hit his face. The outside world. Cars passing. People talking. Distant horns. Life. Ryan stepped out onto the street, and for the first time, he allowed himself to breathe fully. "I made it," he said quietly. But even as the words left his mouth, something inside him shifted. Not violently, not painfully, subtly, like a thought that didn't belong to him. He frowned, shaking his head. "No," he muttered. "Just adjusting." That's what this was, right? After everything he had gone through. Of course it would take time. Ryan walked down the street, trying to ground himself, trying to focus on reality. But the feeling didn't leave. It stayed, quiet, watching. That night, he couldn't sleep. His apartment felt different. Not wrong, not distorted, just unfamiliar. Like he was seeing it for the first time. Ryan sat on the edge of his bed, phone in his hand, scrolling through contacts, names he hadn't called in months, messages he never replied to, conversations he left unfinished. He stared at one contact in particular. Mother. His thumb hovered over it. Then, he pressed call. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then, she answered. "Ryan." His chest tightened. "Hey," he said softly. A pause. Then, "I was just thinking about you," she said. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, me too." They talked. Not long. Not perfect. But real. And when the call ended, something inside him settled. Not erased, not gone, just quieter. Days passed. Ryan started noticing things. Small things. Moments where he would normally walk away, but didn't. Conversations he would avoid, but faced. Feelings he would bury, but acknowledged. It wasn't easy, but it was different. Until it happened again. A week later, late at night, Ryan stepped into the elevator, pressed his floor. The doors closed. The ride began. Everything normal. Until the lights flickered. Just once. Ryan froze. No, he whispered. The display flickered. 6543. Then stopped. At a number that shouldn't exist. -1. The elevator didn't move. It just waited. Ryan's heart pounded. It's not real, he said. I finished it. The lights flickered again. And the doors opened. The hallway was there. Floor -1. Exactly as before. Carpet. Lights. Doors. But something was different. There were fewer doors now. Far fewer. And they were closed. Quiet. Ryan didn't step out. He stayed inside the elevator. Watching. Waiting. Then a figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Walking slowly toward him. Not the faceless worker. Not the shifting thing. Something else. It stopped just outside the elevator. And looked at him. It was him. But not broken. Not empty. Complete. You came back, the figure said. Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't choose to. The figure nodded. You don't always get to choose. Silence. Then Ryan asked the question he had been avoiding. Is it over? The figure smiled faintly. No. Ryan's chest tightened. Then what was all of that for? The figure stepped closer. Not threatening. Not cold. Just honest. To show you the truth. Ryan frowned. And now? The figure looked past him. Into the elevator. Then back at him. Now you live with it. The words settled heavily. Not as a punishment. But as reality. Ryan exhaled slowly. And if I don't? The figure tilted its head slightly. Then stepped back. Into the hallway. Then I will. The doors began to close. Slowly. Ryan didn't stop them. Didn't move. Didn't speak. The last thing he saw was the hallway. And the version of himself standing in it. Watching. Waiting. The doors shut. The elevator jerked. And began moving again. This time, it went up. Ryan stood there in silence. Heart steady. Mind clear. But deep down, he understood something now. Floor -1 didn't trap people. It didn't punish them. It didn't even chase them. It waited. For the moments they would rather forget. For the truths they tried to bury. For the lies they told themselves. And if those things came back, so would it. Ryan stepped out when the doors opened. Back into his floor. Back into his life. But this time, he didn't pretend it was over. Because something small, quiet, had come back with him. And it wasn't leaving. It didn't happen all at once. That would have been easier. A clear sign. A loud warning. Something obvious. But that's not how it worked. It started small. So small that Ryan almost ignored it. Almost. A hesitation. That's all it was. A moment where he could have said something. But didn't. A conversation at work. Someone asking for help. Someone clearly overwhelmed. Ryan noticed it. Of course he did. He noticed everything now. And for a second, he almost stepped in. Almost said something. Almost acted. But then, a thought. It's not your problem. It was quiet. Familiar. Comfortable. Ryan froze. Because he recognized it. Not as his own thought, but as something else. Something that had followed him. He turned slowly. And for just a split second, he saw it. At the end of the hallway. Standing still. Watching. The other version of himself. Ryan blinked. And it was gone. But the hesitation remained. His chest tightened. No, he whispered. And this time, he moved. He stepped forward. Spoke. Helped. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't heroic. But it was something. And the moment he did, the feeling shifted. Not gone, but weaker. That night, Ryan stood in front of the elevator again. He didn't need to use it. His apartment was only one flight up, but he stood there anyway, staring at the doors, waiting for something. The display read, 1. Normal. Still. He stepped inside, pressed the button. The doors closed. Silence. Then, a flicker. The lights dimmed. The display glitched. For just a moment. -1. Ryan didn't panic. Didn't move. Didn't speak. He just watched. The number flickered again. Then, returned to normal. The elevator continued upward, like nothing had happened. The doors opened. His floor. Ryan stepped out slowly, and that's when he understood. The elevator wasn't broken. It wasn't haunted. It wasn't even a place. It was a reflection. A system. Not of punishment, but of truth. Floor -1 didn't exist in the building. It existed in him. Every time he avoided something. Every time he buried something. Every time he chose not to face something. He stepped closer to it. And every time he faced something, truly faced it, he stepped away, but never far enough to forget. Because forgetting was how it all started. Ryan walked into his apartment, closed the door behind him, leaning against it, breathing slowly. He wasn't free. Not completely. But he wasn't trapped either. He was aware, and that was enough. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. The elevator still flickered sometimes. The number still changed. -1 appearing for just a second. But it never stopped. It never opened. Not again. Because Ryan didn't let it. Not by force. Not by fear. But by choice. Every day. Small choices. Difficult ones. Uncomfortable ones. Honest ones. And slowly, the presence faded. Not gone. But quieter. Like a voice that no longer needed to shout. Until one day, Ryan stepped into the elevator, pressed his floor. The doors closed. And nothing happened. No flicker. No shift. No -1. Just a normal ride. The doors opened. He stepped out and paused, waiting. But nothing came. No presence. No second version. No voice. Just silence. Real silence. Ryan smiled faintly. Not because it was over, but because he finally understood. It never would be. And that was okay. Because the door, the one that mattered, wasn't locked anymore. It stayed open. Not to trap him, but to remind him. And as long as he remembered, he would never go back down. Not completely.